Hello, my name is Virginia Gonzalez, and I may know some of you, and some of you I may not. I am a former Christian school teacher. I hold a bachelor's degree in Christian education. And one of the privileges I've had in my lifetime is to be able to teach children about the formation of the United States of America and about the divine providence God the Father, our Creator, has had on our country. And so I've been spurred by the Holy Spirit to share with you a book that I picked back up again after many years. It's a book called Under God. It's written by Toby Mac and Michael Tate. Toby Mac and Michael Tate back in the day used to be part of a Christian group called DC Talk. They are now individual Christian artists, very well known in their own right, very successful. But in their younger days, they wrote this book, and it is a really awesome book that has many nuggets of history, and not only the history of our country and the richness of what all that is, but also the divine providence of God the Father, who went before our forefathers to form this new government, this place that we call the United States of America, and the Constitution that we all get to enjoy, our freedoms. And I just want to share this with you. And teenagers, if you don't like history, or parents, you struggle with your kids, this might be a book that would be really easy read, small pieces and parts that maybe you could sit down after dinner and have discussions about history. This is so important that we understand our God given rights as Americans. We are very blessed to live in a free country. And so I just want to read, I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but for tonight and ongoing, I'm going to pick little snippets out of this book and I'm going to randomly read them to you and share some beautiful things that some of you may not know. But for now, I'm going to read the introduction to you. And it says, "The shining light of liberty and the shadows of the dream. On July 4th, 1776, the forefathers of our nation set upon a course and forged a direction that would reverberate throughout the world and lead this nation to offer unforeseen levels of hope, prosperity, and freedom to an amazing tapestry of people. Us. The American Revolution was truly revolutionary. Government of the people, by the people, for the people was a very radical concept. No one could have dreamt the impact it would have. In our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, one of the most profound ideals set forth was that all men were created equal. Today, it is hard to truly understand how radical the introduction of the concept was. It helps to go back to the 18th century and gain a greater understanding of what the world was like. Kings and queens were the rulers and conquerors of the day. Justice and wealth was held in their hands. Our forefathers sought to take some of that tightly bound power and distribute it so that many who could never dream of hope and opportunity would find peace and prosperity through a freedom that was built upon the principles of God. In 1776, and for basically the next 200 years, however, for some who lived in America, this concept of all men are created equal was more authentic in word than it was in deed. Two enormous tragedies that occurred through Europe's colonization of America are found in the stories of Native Americans, or the host people, and the descendants of Africa. Slavery, the great scourge of our national history, became a gaping wound of injustice from the very outset of our nation's birth. As well as white settlers moved west in search of a better life, the Native American peoples, which I am one of them, were decimated and expelled from their lands. It is important to grasp that these two people groups, Native Americans and blacks, did not come to America seeking the American dream. It is probably more accurate to say that they lived the American nightmare. What is often lost in all of this, however, are the amazing contributions they made to our great country. Every step of the way, as our nation developed, they were right there, making great and major contributions. While our forefathers set forth the ideal of what this nation could become, it was immensely more difficult to carry out and ensure this ideal for all men and women. It is a profound task that continues to this very day. Here is where we see the greatness that is American and the American Revolution, a foundation that was laid that will allow for change. And this foundation could be built upon to lift this nation higher toward its grand ideal. Our forefathers cautioned, however, that if we were to lose our religion and our morality and our foundation, we would surely crumble. This is a glimpse into the battle that started roughly 500 years ago when the first European explorers came to this land. Some have called it our dual heritage. To help give a framework for examining this heritage, we can look at two of the earliest settlements, Jamestown and Plymouth. Jamestown, Virginia, was a colony primarily formed to further the gospel. The Protestant Reformation was a powerful force that fueled the vision of the Pilgrim. If you study these two settlements in any kind of depth, you will find some interesting observations. Plymouth centered around covenanting with God and with one another. While they were not perfect by any means, over and over the Pilgrims seemed to encounter divine providence just at the right times. Jamestown, on the other hand, centered primarily on the acquisition of gold and the building of capital. While there were some redemptive elements in the colony, the settlers seemed to encounter much fighting and bickering and failure. Many people came to America. Many came seeking wealth, and many came seeking religious freedom. When studying the founding of the United States, one thing that you can't help but encounter is the faith of our forefathers. Time and time again, our forefathers recognized God's hand in the shaping of this nation. You will find God, mentioned repeatedly in their words and in their documents. Amazingly, hardly any of this factual history is taught today, whereas it was common public school teaching material 75 years ago. In fact, I'm not that old. Actually, I'm 56 years old. I remember some of these stories being taught as early as first and second, maybe even third grade. We used to do the Pledge of Allegiance in class before class would start. And in some cases, I even remember praying. That is no longer the case. It is important to note, though that while our forefathers were great men who did great things, they were also just men, fallible, imperfect. When we decided to embark upon creating this book, these are the words of Michael Tate and Toby Mack, we decided to use King David from the Bible as our model. He was a man after God's own heart, but he was also a murderer and an adulterer. And though David repented of his errors, they haunted him the rest of his life. In the same way, our forefathers left some things undone, and along the way, our nation plunged into some very dark traditions. Ours is a heritage of light. Ours is a heritage of darkness. This book is a collection of short stories about our heritage. Each story, short story that is, could have and has had entire books written about it and on the subjects included. The collection of stories is by no means exhaustive. We have left out many great ones, but it is our hope that these accounts will ignite a passion and inspire you to learn more about the great heritage you have and to seek out the unfinished work left to do. It is our hope that you enjoy reading these stories as much as we did discovering them. Toby and Michael. That's my hope. I love my country. My grandfather, Jesus Duarte, came to this country from Mexico when he was a very young man. Some say, I believe he was even a boy. He came here with a dream, and he vetted, he worked very hard. My grandfather paid taxes all his life. He worked in the mines in Leadville, Colorado. I have his immigration papers on my wall in my home. I am second-born citizen of these United States. From my paternal side, my family was here before this land was settled. It was part of Mexico, and I have great roots from my Mexican and my Native American Indian heritage. I am proud to be an American. I benefit and have had the luxury of being able to pursue my dreams. I've been able to be anything and everything I've ever wanted. A comedian. I've been able to, the list is so long, so many things. And if you don't know me, hopefully you'll get to know me as I do these videos. I just pray that you would take the responsibility of knowing the great land you live in and not taking taking for granted, the liberties, the freedoms, our constitutional rights, and our heritage as a Christian nation. I know you may not be a Christian. That's okay. That's what makes this country great. We get to choose. And I fear those freedoms are being lost because we don't know who we are. We have forgotten where we came from. And history, though painful and hurtful, just as our fellow Americans have suffered, Black, African American, whatever the politically correct word is, our natives, the people who were here before we even got here. We are Americans. We are not racists. We are beautiful people that God created. We are chosen people that were given a great land. Let us not forget our history. So, look forward to the first story because it's coming. And it's called Bulletproof George Washington. God bless you all. May the Lord keep you. May He bless you. May He make His face shine upon you and give you peace.